Today we have 5 projects that are going to be thrift flips that we spend no more than $15 on. In fact, most of them were under $5.
So we've got this really big piece. This is what broke the bank at $15, and we're going to be doing some French country cottage style finishes on these.
Layered and drippy and fun. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe so that way you never miss out.
So we've got some repairs, a couple of spray foam projects, if you will. And this one's going to be the easiest. It's just got this crack in the top, and I'm just going to fill that up. It's going to expand and foam all over. The nice thing is once that's dried, I can just cut that off really flush. No issues at all on that. And then this one here, I just need to fill a couple areas, and we're going to shave that off as well. I think this is dry. This was the smallest area of spray foam. And it's got a little bit of a bubble in there, but I think we can fill that with salt wash, maybe some paper clay, smooth that out, no big deal.
This is just gonna be a really quick, simple flip. I've decided to do a single color and probably some white wax. I'm using DIY's French Millinery, which matches my shirt. It's a nice lavender color. And I'm gonna paint underneath first. It's always hard to get underneath when it's painted right side up, so I just flip it over and I paint the underside, and then I can do the top. I'm using a Klingon R20. I love the Klingon brushes. They clean so well. They lay the paint on flat. They are definitely an investment, but once you try one, you will love it.
While Jamie's getting hers painted, I'm gonna just get a base coat of white swan on here. This has a lot of texture already in the piece, and I'm not gonna sweat putting salt wash on it just yet. I will probably layer it up and build up some different textures and things as we go.
To buy these paint products, visit jamirayvintage.com. We'll have each of them linked in the description box below. So I'm just coming in with French Millinery on this cute little tin here. I think it'll look good with the red peeking through when I distress it, and I'll probably do like a white dry brush on it to bring out the details. So I totally forgot, I've got to put a mold on the front of my topiary. So I'm using the Rosettes mold here. And I've already put cornstarch in this one as a release agent for my air dry clay. This is IOD air dry clay and the IOD Rosettes mold. The thing I like about the IOD molds is they have this ledge. You can just pull your finger against it and really work that clay in. There's like a million ways to do it, but that's the easiest one. If you put cornstarch on, it just pops right out. So now all I have to do is glue it on and let it dry a little bit. All right, so next step is gonna be a white swan dry brush. I'm just using Zeb's brush here, so I don't have to get a different brush dirty, and I'm just gonna wipe off some of it onto my drop cloth here, and then I'm just gonna come and dry brush across. And this is where all the texture from the clay-based paint really shines, because you got brush strokes you're coming across, and you can even go the other way to kind of create a cross-hatch pattern. And there you go. I'm gonna do that to the whole piece.
All right, well, Jamie's dry brushing hers. I've got some Monet's Garden, Salty Kiss. We're going with a bunch of greens here. I'd be adding like some mossy situation down on the bottom. And then I've got some Boho Blue, Bohemian Blue from DIY Paint. And I'm just gonna use these 3 to kind of dab them on the bottom. And this will be kind of like my moss base coat.
Okay, so I'm using DIY's Big Top, and I'm gonna seal this because I want to put a transfer on it. It's why I decided to do a dry brush instead of white wax, because while you can put a transfer over wax, you have to wait till it's all the way cured, at least 30 days, and I don't have 30 days. So I'm just lightly sanding the edges to distress it a little bit. I'm not having to distress it much. And then I'll seal the bottom too. Using 220 sandpaper, that's the best way to get a little bit of distress without getting like deep lines or squiggles.
Now we've got a 1980s sponge paint look going on here now, and that's not what the end result that we want or what we want to leave it at. So I'm going to take a damp cloth and now blend that in a little more now that I've got a bunch of variation and tone, get rid of like the weird brush strokes from jabbing at it, and we'll go from there. Okay, haven't washed my brush off. Got Carnival Red here with some green. We're gonna go with a Christmas theme on this. And I'm just hitting this high spot here. The green has really darkened it up. It didn't quite make it brown like it normally would, but it is throwing kind of a brownish rusty tone, which is kind of the goal. I'm gonna hit some of these raised spots here. So this is what it looks like on here. I just dab and then I drag a little bit of green over till it's a little darker. And then pretty dry on this and just kind of going where the water would normally run if it had been left outside for a long time. Dry brushing over this a little bit here with leftover, and we're just gonna keep going as we go around. Okay, now we're adding some cake batter. I'm just using small amounts of these samples. I didn't even use a whole sample of White Swan to paint this thing, probably about, half to 2/3. So I'm not washing my brush in between. I'm just going with a blended, layered paint finish. It's not super critical that you worry about your colors blending or your brush being super clean. Another damp cloth, and I'm just gonna kind of come in here lightly. These have mostly dried because of the dry brushing, and this is gonna bring some of that white back through and even some of that base tone that we had. The original color that this was kind of like an earthy tone, and then this is just gonna leave some of those down in the cracks and creases so it doesn't look so stark like I just slapped it with a brush. Okay, now we've got a little bit of sea glass. We used this on our last urns that we did out on our front walk. And I'm just gonna come up in here on these spots. And then later I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go pretty liberal on this, not dry, because I'm gonna come back and spray it real hard and I hope it runs down. So I gotta kind of hurry and get it while it's still damp.
So I'm using 220 grit and coming across here and just sanding this a little bit to distress the clock into the piece. Push that down. All right, we're gonna put another coat of sealer on the top and we're gonna be good to go. It was a little off center because it's thicker on the bottom than the top, so I'm just adding some stuff around the edge to give it a layered effect and trick the eye a little.
It also could have been the way I lined it up. I only did 2 points instead of like 8.
It's okay. We're gonna blame it on the transfer. And
usually I just eyeball it. This time I tried to measure it and This is where we're currently at. Now we need to start doing some finishing touches. We've got lots of great color and blending and all kinds of things going on. A little more mossy green on the bottom where it'd be sitting on the ground getting splashed by water all the time. So Jamie said to do a gray on here, like a darker gray in the details, which I think will actually be awesome. And then we'll wipe that back too and see where we're at, see if we can get some of this detail to pop again, because we've got a great base here and now we need to bring it home. Okay, we've got DIY old school, and I'm just gonna kind of hit down in the cracks as much as I can, then I'll come back through and we'll wipe that off the top again.
Now I'm going to finish up my last bit of the brocante. Luckily, I had a bunch of odds and ends left over because there's so much goodness in that transfer. I just kind of cut them and fit them around the edge in a way that made it look kind of like a layered old trunk, when they have like lots of stickers on them from traveling. All right, now I'm going to just make sure it's down really, really good. And then I will just put another coat of sealer since I decided to add more transfers, and then I think we're done.
This is a wash mixture of my greens, and what I did is I just washed my brush out that I've been using to do this whole time, and I've got kind of like a greenish wash, and I'm just going to start at the top here and let some of this green run down. And I'm gonna do 2 different washes, and I'm just pressing my brush. I'm gonna do this green wash, and I'm also gonna do a white wash. And I might come back with a spray bottle and squirt this some more, but this is gonna dry really faint. It's so watered down. So it is pooling up down on the bottom down here, and I'll go ahead and wipe that down before it gets too much. All right, so this is where we're at after the green wash. At this point, I'm debating whether I need to even add more. I really love the way it looks. The green is looking good. I like the white background base color that we used. To be honest, I don't know if a whitewash will help it. I feel like we'll lose some of those green tones and the layers we've built up if we whitewash it. Okay, so I've decided more dark. This is kind of like a brownish wash made from everything on this palette. And I just wipe the brush through it and then rinse the brush out, and it's got probably 3/4 full water here. And I'm gonna just start at the top, do the same thing I did with the green, and then over that, we'll do dry brush where we feel like it needs to be brightened up. Because if you stand way back, it's looking a little muddy. But if you're close, you can see all the details. So we wanna make it contrast a little more so it looks good from far away too. Okay, that really brought out the details and the dark, and now we're gonna try to do some highlights. This is a wash, it's probably gonna run down through there, but I'm gonna try to be more strategic with it instead of just randomly putting it there. I'm gonna just start down here and do the wash here instead, so I don't get it in some of these grooves that have picked up that nice dark color. Just a wash over is working pretty well. It dries lighter.
I just trimmed off the excess foam. We actually wound up stuffing it full of paper towels and then doing spray foam, because before it was just trying to spray foam the inside, and that was gonna take forever to dry. So if you ever have to do this, make sure you fill the cavity first with something and then spray foam. I wanna kinda hide the fact that this texture is different than the texture that's on the rest of the ball. I mean, it's down on the bottom, so honestly it's gonna be hidden anyways, but I'm just gonna use some French millinery mixed with our salt wash, and this is gonna help us give texture to camouflage our spray foam. Now I'm just gonna stipple on this salt wash, and then I'll just paint the whole piece with it. Now that my salt wash is dried, I've got a dry brush going on here. I'm just hitting these top parts to bring out all that detail.
I'm gonna do a liquid top coat on this. I've got Sweet Pickins top coat. It's more of a matte finish, and I think I'm using a brush. This is the F30 from Klingon, and it's gonna get down in all these little cracks really well and get us a nice coverage on there. You could use this outside. It's not rated for outdoor sealing, but I feel like if this gets more age or some of the paint starts running off, it will just be perfect.
To the Dollar Tree, and I picked up some moss, and I'm just putting lots and lots and lots and lots of hot glue here. And then taking a big wad of moss. There's probably a better way to do this, but this is what I'm doing. And I just put it right on top of that hot glue. And then once that dries, I'll usually pull it up, and if there's anything that needs to be glued back down, I can add more glue. But I'm just gonna go around and fill that in. And now this kind of dated looking topiary is looking brand new because the moss is nice and clean and fresh.
So we paid as little as $1.50 for one of these, all the way up to $15. And the least amount we sold it was what, $9.95?
$10.95.
$10.95 for this, and we sold this for $2.25.
So the only item that we haven't sold yet is this table. I'll get those pictures updated and to the website. If you guys have your own thrift flips that you would like to make over, be sure to visit JamiRayVintage.com for all the pay-in products we use. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Jami Ray Vintage for more
DIY.